Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Mohammad Jahazib Saeed. I welcome everyone on behalf of IBA SEEF to this webinar on Islamic finance with key focus on housing finance, the way forward. I start with a recitation of Holy Quran. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid walam yulad, walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. Ameen. अच्छा ज़िया ज़रा आप मेरी प्रेजेंटेशन प्लीज सबके साथ शेयर कर दें ताकि वी कैन स्टार्ट फ्रॉम देयर जब तक ज़िया प्रेजेंटेशन शेयर कर रहे हैं मैं आप लोगों को आई वॉक यू थ्रू व्हाट इज़ द एजेंडा फॉर टुडे देखिए हमारा जो ये सेशन है टोटल इसकी जो ड्यूरेशन है दैट इज़ 1 hour 30 minutes और हमारा मेन फोकस इस सेशन में होगा इस्लामिक होम फाइनेंस के अंदर वी हैव गॉट अ वेरी एक्सपीरियंस्ड एंड वेरी डाइवर्सिफाइड panel of experts which we have with us starting from Mr. Ahmed Ali Siddiqui. We will discuss about the Islamic finance, the key features and the key differentiating factors. Then we will have a regulatory perspective क्योंकि अभी स्टेट बैंक ने रिसेंटली बहुत सारी चेंजेस की हैं नया पाकिस्तान हाउसिंग स्कीम के हवाले से हाउसिंग के हवाले से उसके ऊपर हम रेगुलेटर का व्यू लेंगे इमरान अहमद साहब उसको कवर करेंगे then we will move on to Arshad Majid Saab, who will present the case study of Mizan Bank's Easy Home or Housing Finance के मीज़ान बैंक ने किस तरह से इसको सक्सेसफुली लॉन्च किया उसके बाद we have Suhail Beg Saab, who is CEO of Emaar Pakistan. He will share with us the role of developers and the turnaround story of Emaar in Pakistan. Then we'll also have a representative from PMRC Pakistan Mortgage Refinance Company, Mr. Zulfikar Alam. Zulfikar Saab will talk about the various schemes which PMRC has done. For example, they have launched a sukuk for the housing sector, which will take Pakistan towards mortgage-backed securities. Then he will also discuss about the risk-sharing framework which has been launched by the government as a support to promote low-cost housing. Then he will also talk about the refinance scheme, whereby PMRC is offering financing to Islamic banks as well as conventional banks, which enable the banks to lend or finance for a longer tenor of time and that on fixed rate. So this is the flow of today's presentation, today's talk. In the end, we have question and answer sessions. So the audience can put those questions in the chat box. The IBA SEEF team is following up. Zia bhai, can you move on to the next slides, please? The next one. As you know, my name is Hazib Saeed. I am head of housing and business finance products at Dubai Islamic Bank. If you look at Pakistan's housing sector, it's not a very encouraging picture, particularly with respect of our mortgage to GDP ratio. Just to share some figures, about 10 years back when mortgage financing started formally in Pakistan, particularly the Islamic mortgage financing, our share was about 1% of our GDP. That is called the mortgage debt or the mortgage to GDP ratio. But unfortunately, over the last 10 years, this share has actually fallen and we are just 0.2% of the GDP. अगर हम इस चीज़ को कंपेयर करें with that of our neighbor, we don't need to go very far away. We just need to focus on what is happening in Bangladesh, what is happening in India. So Bangladesh is around 3% and India is 6%. If we move towards developed markets like the European markets or USA, there the mortgage to GDP ratio is way above 70 to 80%. There are certain European countries where this ratio is even higher than 100%. So, as the State Bank Deputy Governor once said, that this needs to change dramatically if we want to create economic growth and if we want to promote housing finance in Pakistan. Now, coming back to the Islamic banking industry. Islamic banking industry, if we look at in terms of assets, the share of Islamic banking industry is roughly 17.3 or 18% on the asset side. However, State Bank of Pakistan has recently launched a roadmap, a strategic roadmap for the next 5 years, where the aim is to take Islamic banking industry in terms of both assets and deposits. The market share should be 30%. And in that strategy, housing finance has got a very, very important role. Now, coming back to the Islamic home finance market. If you look at the Islamic banking industry, the share is around 18% of in terms of asset. But if we do the numbers and we see what the industry is doing, Islamic home finance share in the total mortgage finance market is more than 50%. To give you an idea, based on the figures which have been released by SBB, the figure is around 50-55%. Just to give you an idea, Ziabe, can you move on to the next slide, please? Ji, this is the home finance portfolio. This is the industry number. This includes the Islamic banks. This includes HBFC. This includes other conventional banks which have Islamic windows, and conventional banks which are offering mortgage finance. So if you look at the last 5 years, the portfolio size is 80 to 100 billion, which is nothing as compared to the size of the banking industry and as compared to the size of Pakistan's economy. Just to give you an idea, because we also do a comp scan on monthly basis, जो हमें मुख्तलिफ बैंक्स के नंबर्स आते हैं कि उनकी क्या मंथली मॉर्गेज की एक्विजिशन हुई है, तो आज से कुछ 6 महीना पहला जो ये नंबर होता था महीने का, जो हम मॉर्गेज बुक करते थे पूरी इंडस्ट्री के अंदर, वो तकरीबन कोई बिलियन तक का होता था. अब पिछले 3-4 महीनों में जब से रेट्स कम है, स्टेट बैंक ने स्टेप्स उठाए हैं, बैंक्स को टारगेट्स दिए हैं, नया पाकिस्तान हाउसिंग स्कीम आई है, वी हैव द डेवलपर्स वो आर आल्सो प्लेइंग एन एक्टिव पार्ट. तो ये जो है तकरीबन 1 बिलियन से 3 बिलियन पे फिगर चली गई, ऑलमोस्ट 3 टाइम्स इजाफा हो गया है. तो अगर हम आज की अगर तारीख में देखें कि इस्लामिक बैंक्स का क्या शेयर है, तो आई थिंक ये इजीली 60% से हम लोग आगे चले जाएंगे. और जो अगर हम मंथली फिगर्स भी देखें इस्लामिक मॉर्गेज फाइनेंसिंग की, तो इस्लामिक मॉर्गेज फाइनेंसिंग प्रोवाइडर जो बैंक्स हैं, जो इस्लामिक बैंकिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन है, जो विंडोज हैं, दे आर प्लेइंग अ मेजर रोल. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. जी, ये एक छोटा सा हमने एक पाई चार्ट बनाया है जिसके अंदर हमने मार्केट शेयर का कंपैरिजन किया है. सोर्स हमारी जो फिगर्स हैं वो स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान और इंडस्ट्री के नंबर्स हैं. इसमें जो आप लोगों को नीले रंग का पाए में जो हिस्सा नज़र आ रहा है, ये इस्लामिक बैंक्स और इस्लामिक बैंकिंग विंडोज़ हैं. बिकॉज बाज़ इस्लामिक बैंक की विंडोज़ भी बहुत एक्टिवली काम कर रही है, और वो जो होम फाइनेंस ऑफर करते हैं वो करते ही इस्लामिक सेगमेंट के अंदर हैं. जो आपका लाइट ग्रीन नंबर नज़र आ रहा है, ये DFI है, HBFC है. HBFC भी काफ़ी एक्टिवली परस्यू कर रहा है एक अरसे से. और जो आपको लाल रंग का जो चार्ट नज़र आ रहा है इस पूरे पाई चार्ट के अंदर, वो बेसिकली कन्वेंशनल बैंक्स हैं, सिर्फ डेडिकेटेड कन्वेंशनल बैंक जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ कन्वेंशनल होम फाइनेंस ऑफर करते हैं. तो ये कुछ इंडस्ट्री के फिगर्स थे. और इससे हमें जो मेन चीज़ें अखज़ हो रही हैं कि पोटेंशियल बहुत ज़्यादा है. अगर हम इंडस्ट्री का साइज़ देखें और विद इन द इंडस्ट्री जो कस्टमर की प्रेफरेंस है वो भी इस्लामिक होम फाइनेंस के हवाले से है. मेरा जो पार्ट था इस सारे मौजू का वो मुकम्मल हुआ. अब मैं गुजारिश करूँगा जनाब अहमद अली सिद्दीकी साहब से, जो SEVP हैं, जो IB सेंटर फॉर इस्लामिक सेंटर फॉर एक्सलेंस ऑफ सीफ के ऑलरेडी डायरेक्टर भी हैं, और मीज़ान बैंक के अंदर शरिया कंप्लाइंस को हेड भी करते हैं, कि वो अब जो इस्लामिक प्रोडक्ट है होम फाइनेंस की उसके बारे में बताएं. मैं लकी महसूस करता हूं कि आई गॉट एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू वर्क विद अहमद भाई व्हेन अराउंड 15 इयर्स बैक हम लोग स्ट्रक्चरिंग कर रहे थे इस प्रोडक्ट की कि किस मोड पे होना चाहिए. तो ओवर टू यू अहमद भाई, आप प्लीज़ अपना जो पार्ट है वो डिस्कस कीजिए. थैंक यू वेरी मच एवरीवन.
Jazakallah, thank you, Jahanzeb. And I like to thank you or welcome all the panelists today. This is another effort by IBA Center for Excellence in Islamic Finance to promote housing finance in Pakistan. Sharia compliant housing को हम promote करना चाह रहे हैं. और मैं आज briefly जो Islamic housing finance जैसे काम करती है, मैं उसके ऊपर I would like to give a small इंट्रोडक्शन टू द पार्टिसिपेंट के क्या उसूल हैं, क्या प्रिंसिपल्स हैं जिसके बेसिस पे इस्लामिक होम फाइनेंस वर्क करती है. सो द मेन प्रोडक्ट जो इस्लामिक फाइनेंसिंग में हम होम फाइनेंसिंग के लिए यूज़ करते हैं, डिमिनिशिंग मुशारका कहलाती है, या इसको हम जॉइंट को ओनरशिप भी कह सकते हैं, कि जॉइंट को ओनरशिप विच ओवर द टाइम डिक्लाइंस. इसके क्या प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, कैसे काम करती है, क्या इसका शरिया स्ट्रक्चर है, इस पर मैं अगली स्लाइड में बात करूंगा. सबसे पहले हमें ये समझना चाहिए कि शराकत या जो पार्टनरशिप है इसकी दो नॉर्मल फॉर्म्स हैं. एक शिरकतुल मिल्क कहलाती है, वेयर दो लोग या दो से ज़्यादा लोग मिलके कोई एसेट को परचेज करते हैं. यहाँ पे जैसे दो भाई हैं, उन्होंने घर खरीदा, या दो ایک فیملی میں چار پانچ لوگ ہیں, انہوں نے مل کے کوئی زمین خریدی, یہ شرکت
احمد صاحب, یہ ایک
جی
کمنٹ
پلیز.
آیا ہوا ہے کہ کوئی انٹرنیشنل پارٹیسپینٹس بھی ہیں, تو they want you to speak English.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Imran Sahab. So I'll briefly repeat. The basic concept in house finance is the partnership, which is musharaka. We call it musharaka, and there are two types of musharaka. One is called shirkatul milk, or we can simply call it joint ownership in an asset, or in a equipment, or in a house. So here, for example, two brothers can buy a house, they can buy a car, they can buy a piece of land. So they are joint owner in that particular property. Similarly, there is another type of partnership, or a musharaka or shirka, where two or more person enter into a partnership to establish a commercial enterprise or to run a business. But in our case, in housing finance, there is no direct business that all participants are trying to run, but the concept or the purpose is to buy an assets jointly. So in this case of house finance, we consider shirkatul milk, or we use the shirkatul milk based mode of partnership, where two or more persons jointly own a particular asset or a house, and then this is how this and then one partner uses the share of another partner, and they pay a regular rental. So I'll just go on. This is the mode of diminishing musharaka or shirkatul milk. It has basic three main components. The first component is the customer come to the bank and they ask for a financing. Say I come to a bank and I say I want 10 million rupees as a financing, and I want to buy a house which is worth 20 million. So bank will do the credit assessment as per their standard policy, and they will check and say, if I'm qualified to buy a house, can I pay the rentals timely? Do I have the required income stream available? If I pass that criteria of credit, then the bank and the customer, they jointly go and buy the house, and they become the joint co-owner in this property. So, the first step is creating joint ownership in the property, and this is called shirka, or this is the Sharia mode that is used is called shirkatul milk. Then the customer want to use the house and bank want to earn the rent. So bank and the customer enter into a rental contract, where the bank provides the share of house to the customer against a regular rental payment. And the third step is when every month the customer regularly pays the rent to the bank. However, if you just continue to pay the rent, your ownership does not increases. So the customer also regularly buy the share of the bank at a regular interval by the units of the bank ownership, and increase the ownership of the customer, and as a result the rental amount goes on declining. So it's a three-step thing. First step is creating joint ownership in the property. The second step is the customer uses the share of the bank in the property against the rental payments. And the third part is, on a regular interval, the customer goes on buying or purchasing the share of the bank, and as a result, two things happen. The rent, the amount of rent goes down, because the customer is becoming is increasing the ownership in the property, and the share of the bank in the property goes down. Therefore, we also call it a declining co-ownership arrangement with in an Islamic structure. So this mode of financing can be used for other asset class, like you can buy a warehouse, you can buy a car, you can buy plant or machinery. But here our focus is on housing, so it's more easier for the customer to understand that, because people normally understand that you can take a house on rent, or you can take a fixed asset on rent. So this concept become easier for the customer to also understand that the bank being the co-owner in the property is providing the share, his or its share in the property to the customer against a rental payment. Then there are three other very simple concepts. One concept is called undivided ownership, or we call it musha. And according to Islamic law, it is if someone is a joint owner in a property, it is allowed under the principle of that you can give your share to rent to the other partner, or you both can give your asset, the joint asset in the property, to a third partner against a rent payment. So the concept of creating a musha or joint co-ownership is allowed. The concept of one partner giving the share to another partner against an agreed rental payment is also allowed. So in this, this is how the home financing work in Islamic finance, and in Pakistan, mostly all banks do diminishing musharaka. The customer is approaching a bank with a request to finance a house. The bank enter into a musharaka agreement, and both of the bank and the customer, they go and pay to the seller their respective share to buy the asset. They become the co-owner. The bank pays a regular rental to the bank for use of the asset, and gradually the customer goes on buying the share of ownership from the bank, and as a result, the ownership of the bank goes down, the ownership of the customer goes up, and the customer at the end of the day or at the end of the transaction become the complete owner of the property. So again, very quickly, the Sharia principles that are involved is creating joint ownership in a property. It is allowed by all school of Islamic jurisprudence. Then also the Muslim jurists allow that a one partner can give his or her share in the property on rent to another partner. There is no confusion on it. There is no interest involved because there is a real asset, and the asset risk was taken by the bank, and therefore the bank has a right to earn rent on those assets. So there is no yes, if you want to, both partners want to give their property to a third person on rent, then there is a process involved that you need to take permission. But in our housing finance case, this is not the case. The bank is giving the share of property on rent to the second partner, which is the customer. So there is no confusion or not even a difference of opinion in this case. Then the client promises that over the period of this 10 years or 5 years of financing, the client will buy the share of the bank in the property, and such promise is also allowed. However, you need to be careful that you cannot just combine the rent agreement and promise and the purchase of unit in a one single arrangement, because rent agreement is starting at the start, and it goes on for the next 10 or 20 10 or 20 or whatever the tenure of the financing. However, at each month end, normally a sale is happening, and this sale is happening at the end of the month. There is a proper offer and there is proper acceptance for the sale. So the customer every month end is buying one share and this of the property or one unit of the bank's ownership and is becoming owner. So these transactions are not done at one time. They are done in a manner that they are done executed independently. Therefore, which make it permissible according to Islamic law. I'll just show you a very small, quick example. This is say, let's assume a cost of the house is 1 million, and the customer want to put 400,000 rupees, and they request the bank to invest the remaining 60%. So bank agreed to invest 600,000 or 60% in the property. Let's say the property financing tenure is 5 years and the profit rate is 8.5%. So what will the bank do? The bank and the customer will both go and buy the share in the property. The bank will pay 600,000, the customer will pay 400,000, and both will pay 1 million rupees or 10 lakh rupees to the seller. Secondly, the bank will divide the ownership of the bank into certain number of units. So normally what happens is that, for example, the tenure of financing is 5 years. So you divide your ownership in the banks divide their ownership in 60 units. So for example, there are 60 months, so you divide your ownership in 60 units, and each price the unit price for each unit is say 10,000 in this case, because that's very simple. 600,000 divided by 60, you get that the unit price, which is 10,000. And then they agree on a rent per unit. So in this case, the rent is approximately 71 rupees. So what will happen that after 1 month, the customer will pay rent for 60 units, which comes to 4,250. The customer will also buy a unit and make a payment of 10,000 rupees. So there are two components of the payment. One is a rental payment that is coming to the bank for using the share of the bank. And then in a separately, the customer is paying 10,000 to buy one unit of the bank. And as a result, what will happen, the ownership of the bank declines to 59 unit or 59%, and the ownership of the customer increases to 41%. And this will goes on till 60th month. And at the end of the 60th month, or at the end of the tenure, the customer will pay the 71 rupee rent for the last remaining unit, and they will buy the last unit from the bank as well. So as a result, this complete ownership of the property transfers from the bank to the client. And during the time when the customer is using the property, the customer is regularly paying the rental to the bank, and this rent becomes the income of the bank, which is a permissible income because that is coming from the utilization of a real asset or a property. So this is how the simple the diminishing musharaka arrangement, the Sharia concept of Islamic finance work in a housing finance arrangement. So I like to conclude here, and thank you. Over to you, Janzib.
Thank you very much, Ahmed Bhai, for a very detailed overview about the product, about the structure, about the key features of Islamic home finance. Now, from a regulatory perspective, which governs all the banks in the DFIs, I would like to invite Mr. Imran Ahmed, who is Additional Director, Development Finance Support Group, State Bank of Pakistan. He has been associated with Islamic Banking Department and the Housing Department as well. So over to you, Imran Ahmed Saab, and please share the various regulatory changes and an overview about the State Bank's effort to promote housing finance and Islamic finance in Pakistan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. نحمدہ ونصلی علی رسول کریم. بہت شکریہ جہان زیب صاحب اور آئی بی سی کے باقی ساتھی. احمد علی صاحب has clarified the concept of musharaka, and of course we are discussing Islamic housing finance, and very rightly said the way forward, because when I used to work in some years back, the housing finance was only dominated by conventional banks. But at that time, we started a journey and issued developers guideline and separated the housing finance PRs from consumer finance, with the expectation that in the coming months, in the coming years, housing finance will grow and our efforts will contribute. So Alhamdulillah, now Islamic banks have captured a major share of housing finance, which is growing on a better pace. And we'll see in some graphs already have been shared by Mr. Jahazib, but we can see a little more. I mean, just discussion, adding to what Mr. Jahazib described, housing is a basic need. I mean, everyone on this planet, on this earth, needs to have a good housing. I mean, of course, people are living somewhere, but they need to have some good housing. And in this context, political parties have also been using this slogan, Roti, Kapda and Makan. With these things moving on, Government of Pakistan prepared a housing policy and in 2001, which have very good features. I mean, in that policy, it was written that mortgage creation cost will not be more than 1%. And of course, the policy could not be implemented in true spirit, but I think it needs to be reviewed again, and a national policy should be adopted. And then, as discussed earlier, that SPP issued the guidelines for financing to builders and developers, and then REITs regulation come in 2015. And of course, historically, housing finance regulations were part of consumer finance. In 2017, we separated the regulations for housing finance. And of course, 4 career laws are here. And in the recent past, I mean, in 2020, a financing facility for low-cost housing for special segments were introduced, which contains the refinance component only. Then moving forward, of course, State Bank worked with the Government of Pakistan, and mandatory targets have been assigned to the banks. With this, a lot of change has started to happen within the banks. I mean, the infrastructure was very small in most of the banks. They were not, doing the housing finance. And Alhamdulillah, with the efforts of the State Bank, and of course, with the efforts of the banks, the situation is now improving. And then The housing finance markup subsidy scheme was launched in late 2020, on which, of course, all of the banks are now feeling pressure, and we are coordinating with them. If we see the trend of the housing finance, it has been gradually increasing, and in 2020, I mean, it was, during last 3 years, it has almost remained around 100 billion. But of course, with the advent of this market subsidy scheme, we are hopeful that by the end of 2021 will be even better, and in the coming year we'll be having even a greater share of housing finance in the overall private sector credit. This is just a comparison of December and figures of 2019 and 2020, marginal difference, but hopefully with the measures being taken this year, there will be a lot of difference. And you know that if we see the breakup of housing finance, which was also shown by Brother Jahanzeb, that Islamic banks have captured a major share, while conventional banks are also contributing, and DFI, that is House Building Finance Company Limited, they have also reasonable share in overall housing finance. And if we see the number of borrowers, these are still with the HBFCL. HBFCL now holds around 38,000 numbers, because their focus has been on very small, and it also includes the historical number. But with the Islamic banks and conventional banks, they are gradually building up their numbers. Of course, up to 2020, end of 2020, they were mainly focusing on bit more above average clients. But with this year, when they are focusing on small ticket borrowers under the government scheme, of course, this number will increase by the end of this year. This shows NPL ratio. To us, this does not show an alarming situation, because as some bankers quote that this is a risky business, but I think up to 10% should be acceptable. If we take out HBFCL, the NPL ratio comes to around 9%. And of course, while we discuss some intervention by the central bank, it will be worthy to mention that in the recently announced Islamic banking strategy, that is up to 2025, in that strategy as well, Islamic housing finance percentage has been projected by the end of 2020. They have projected that by the end of 2020, private sector credit of Islamic banking institution should have a reasonable portion of around to 10% of Islamic housing finance. So these are some of the steps which have been taken in recent past, which we understand, which we expect that are helping the industry in building up the housing finance portfolio. Mandatory targets have been assigned. Although State Bank had exited the mandatory target regime way back, in the history, but of course we had to revert back to target regime. Agriculture financing targets have been there in the market, but since 2016, the State Bank introduced the SME financing targets, and then in 2020, housing finance targets have been introduced. SME targets are, flexible in nature. They are not exactly mandatory, but for the housing and construction finance, mandatory targets have been allocated to banks, and the banks are now required to achieve at least 5% of their private sector credit by the end of this year. So with this target in mind, banks are in the process of developing their infrastructure and capacity to meet these targets. Banks have submitted their plans, which the SBP is following with them on quarterly basis. Banks, to facilitate them in achievement of targets, State Bank has also incentivized, a sort of carrot and stick in the form of credit reserve requirement. If they meet the target or exceed the target, they will have to maintain a lower CRR in the next quarter. And if this they miss the target, their CRR will be increased. It's not only defined the what are the chats coming here. SBP discussing housing finance in general. We are here to listen Islamic housing finance. Okay. As the international banks create money by the process of financial, how Islamic banks can create.
इमरान साहब आप कंटिन्यू रखें, ये चैट के सवाल हम आखिर में ले लेंगे.
Okay, no problem.
जी बिल्कुल ऐसा ही करें.
So State Bank has, I mean, this is all creating an enabling environment to facilitate the banking sector. And of course, we have seen in the graphs that Islamic banking is increasing their share, and SBP is also has set targets under the Islamic banking strategy. We will work more with the Islamic banking institutions to facilitate in their structure building, in their capacity building, and in the achievement of their targets. So low cost housing is the focus of the day. In this regard, two schemes have been launched, which is one for special segments and one is for general masses. So banks are working on those limits, on those schemes. We'll discuss in a short while. And then State Bank had a exposure limit for investment in the construction sector. For the purpose of this low cost housing finance, the exposure in real estate has been exempted from that limit. So this scheme has been introduced and the government has allocated a reasonable sum of money. In this scheme, refinance is being provided by the central bank at very low rates for the eligible for the low cost house prospective borrowers. So in this scheme, initially, if the banks extend financing on their own rates, it becomes costly, and generally its rate is as described by brother Ahmed Ali. Its rate is subject to change on annual basis. But in this scheme, the State Bank has fixed the rate up to 10 years. Of course, for initial 5 years, it is small, and then in the next 5 years, there is a slight change in the rates. So State Bank has introduced tiers in the scheme. Tier 0 has recently been introduced for microfinance banks. And I mean, in these tiers on overall cover the houses up to 250 square yards or 10 marla in Pakistan. And maximum covered area has been defined. The maximum price was an issue in the previous scheme. With the revision, the State Bank has, the government of Pakistan and State Bank have removed the maximum price tiers, maximum price for tier 0, tier 2, and tier 3. However, maximum loan sizes have been defined. I mean, microfinance banks can extend up to 2 million, and commercial banks can extend up to 10 million, that is 1 crore rupees. The tenure can be extended up to 20 years, but the minimum tenure is 5 years. Initially, it was 10 years, and most of the persons crossing 50 years of age were facing difficulty. So the State Bank has worked with the government of Pakistan, and this requirement has been relaxed up to 5 years. This is the rate structure. I mean, the persons going to, this is tier 0, not tier 10. Going to the microfinance bank, they will be charged 5% for the first 5 years and 7% for the next 5 years. And the other tiers where commercial banks are working, the first tier is just for at the rate of 3%. I mean, this is very low, keeping in view that what the rates could be charged by the market itself, the 3% for the first and 5% for the next 5 years are very low. Because of this, many people are rushing to the banks, and there has become a challenge for the banks to respond to them. The markup subsidy is available for the first 10 years, and after 10 years, market rate will be applicable. Banks can also avail risk coverage against the housing finance under the scheme from Pakistan Mortgage Refinance Company. And of course, we have a presentation later on today by Mr. Zulfikar of PMRC. In this regard, to facilitate the masses, be it the conventional bank or the Islamic banking institution, State Bank has taken 2-3 steps. On the first of it is mystery shopping. State Bank has arranged mystery shopping, in which different people go to branches and try to judge their knowledge, their behavior, and arrangement within the branch. I mean, in the 5 cycles have been completed of this mystery shopping, and Alhamdulillah, the overall results have started now improving. Then a markup subsidy service portal has been launched, wherein the aggrieved parties, wherein if a person has applied and is facing some difficulty, they can come to the portal and lodge their complaints. Since its launch of the portal, we have received around 1,200 complaints, which have been, of course, amicably resolved by the bankers within the reasonable time. There are few complaints which have taken a little longer, but the banks are, interacting with the not only with the complainants but also with the State Bank field offices to resolve these issues. And then State Bank has also set up help desks in all the State Bank offices across Pakistan, where State Bank has 16 offices. In all the offices, help desks have been set up, where general public comes and can have a chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Imran Sir, for your very detailed presentation on the regulatory framework and the steps which the State Bank has taken to not just promote but to regulate housing finance. We are witness to the fact that whenever there is a complaint, the State Bank is working with the banks. It's not just a carrot or stick relationship. It's a very conducive and a very hand-holding relationship which the State Bank is providing to banks. They are not just providing telling what to do, but also how to do. So thank you, sir. Now we move on to the next presenter. I would request Arshad Majid Saab, who is Group Head, SEVP Consumer Finance, Mizan Bank, to share with us the success story of Easy Home, Pakistan's first Islamic home finance product in Pakistan. Arshad Majid Saab, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jazib. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I believe Ahmad Ali Siddiqui, Jazib Saab and Imran Saab has covered overall the situation of the housing finance we have in Pakistan. And I would have very few things to add on it. I believe we all are aware that Pakistan is facing a shortage of anywhere about 10 to 12 million housing units. The housing shortage for urban areas is estimated to be around 4 million units. According to the SBP, 700,000 units are added to the overall deficit on yearly basis. Most of the housing backlogs fall on the back of low and lower middle income segments of the population. And as Imran Saab has detailed down in his presentation recently, the very first rule of State Bank of Pakistan with the Naya Pakistan, Mera Pakistan, Mera Ghar scheme, State Bank of Pakistan has announced the first one in October 2020 with a few of the limitations. And when the scheme reached to the bank and all the banks have approached State Bank of Pakistan with different sort of suggestions, which has finally been approved, Alhamdulillah, and a new revision guidelines have been circulated by State Bank of Pakistan in the near past. And as Imran Sahab has said, with these changes in the key parameters of this scheme, Government of Pakistan has increased the total funding allocation to rupees 36 billion on account of markup subsidy payment for financing over a period of 10 years and has assured continuity of this facility. That particular commitment has boosted up the morale of the banks, and they have made very robust and quick decisions in order to promote the low-cost housing in Pakistan. Just to give you a little idea about what we had before and what the changes has been made in the new scheme, is the requirement of maximum 1-year-old housing unit is being removed under Tier 2 and Tier 3 till March 31st, 2023. Restriction on first transfer of housing unit is being removed as well in Tier 2 and Tier 3. Requirement of covered area under Tier 2 and Tier 3 for land-based houses being removed as well. Maximum covered area for flats and apartments under these tiers is being increased due to limited supply at current levels. Requirement of maximum value of housing units under Tier 2 and Tier 3 is being removed. Maximum loan size under Tier 2 and Tier 3 is being doubled from 3 to 6 and 5 to 10 million rupees. Minimum eligible tenure of housing finance under GMSS is being lowered to 5 years from existing 10 years. And user subsidized markup rate also being reduced as explained by the Imran Sahab of State Bank of Pakistan. If we see the overall industry, as Janzeb also has quoted in his presentation, that the housing finance portfolio on Pan-Pakistan basis is at 105 billion rupees, which is not even 1% of the GDP. So State Bank of Pakistan and Government of Pakistan and all the banks are striving hard to increase this share towards the GDP, and for this purpose, all the banks are announcing new schemes for the general public and make it easy. In fact, in Mizan Bank also, we have over 800 branches, and we have equipped all our branches the proper training with the printed materials. We are also advertising this product to make it more convenient for the general public to understand the features and to reach the respective branch for their required housing finance facility. Mizan Bank, as Ahmed Sahab has explained, we are working on the diminishing Musharka, and he has explained Musharka with all its details, respective models which are available, which are very convenient and to use and to understand. And in this regard, Mizan Bank, since the start, alhamdulillah, we have disbursed about 6,000 housing loans of about 40 billion rupees. And with respect to the low-cost housing, so far, alhamdulillah, we have recorded 1,900 applications and approved about 1.8 billion rupees with the disbursement of 85 million in 36 cases. This is simple. We have made this process very simple for the general public to understand the product. We have arranged the Urdu and English, both modules with the branches, where a person can go and visit the branch and understand the requirement and submit a properly filled application form and attached all the required documents belongs to him about his income and what he needs exactly. And at our end, we evaluate the applicant and check the addresses and other things. And immediately we offer to the customer by means of the offer letter, and which enables the customer to go to the market and select the property according to the limit assigned by the bank. And I hope with these steps, which is taken by Mizan Bank, and most of the banks made these efforts at their end to promote the housing finance. And I'm confident with all these efforts, inshallah, we will be able to record good numbers on pan-Pakistan basis. Today, Prime Minister has also inaugurated the very large housing scheme in Lahore, where Mizan Bank is also. All these structure has been made of 36,000 apartments totally on Sharia-based rulings, which has been finalized by Mizan Bank under the guidance of Ahmad Ali Siddiqui Saab. And I'm hopeful that with regards to cost, other schemes are going to be announced very soon, and makes this dream come true to provide the low-cost housing to the general public. That's end from my side. If you have any question, please ask.
Thank you very much, Ashad Majisa, for your wise words and a very good overview of Mizan Bank's steps taken to promote housing in general and low-cost housing in particular. Yes, indeed, today was a monumentous day in Pakistan's history because a very large project has been announced by the government, and I'm sure this will definitely improve the supply side situation, which still is a big challenge for the promotion of housing finance in Pakistan. Regarding Q&A, I would request all the participants to put up their question and answers in the chat box. We'll try to address them towards the end. Some of the questions are being addressed there and then by the honorable panelist. So because we don't want to keep things towards the end. Now, we move on to our next presenter. I would request Suhail Beg Saab, who is Chief Executive Officer at Emaar Pakistan, to tell us the role of developers in promotion of housing finance and the role and the steps which Emaar Pakistan is taking to help Pakistan achieve its mortgage to GDP ratio. Thank you very much, everyone, and over to you, Suhail Saab.
Thank you very much, Jazib. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm probably the least experienced and least knowledgeable person on the subject, but I'll try to share my views. Before I do that, I would also like to, congratulate Governor State Bank, Dr. Raza Bakir and his team on successfully leading the initiatives around, low-income housing mortgage finance facility, as well as different tax incentive to bring in developers into the organized sector. So I think it's a very big step. As a result of that, we have seen a renewed interest in home financing and mortgage financing among the banks, both Islamic and non-Islamic. And hence, we have opportunity to have this webinar where we are talking about this very critical subject, which is very important for progress of any country around the world. So when I look around the world, even the developed markets, for them, home finance and real estate industry plays a pivotal role as a backbone to drive the economy. So for us, I think it's extremely important to draw learnings, not only from developing markets, but also from the developed markets, and try to take initiatives which will help bolster the confidence of all the participants in the industry. I think overall, when I reflect on the industry, the entire ecosystem is quite archaic and it needs a lot of uplift, also from the developer end, as well as from the banks, as well as the regulators. So we all have a role to play. As an Emaar, we are trying to bring in, our international expertise from Middle East in terms of design, in terms of quality, in terms of offering a lifestyle by the sea. And then we have a project in two projects, one in Karachi, the other one in Islamabad. Our Karachi project is worth around $5 billion. So that offers phenomenal opportunities to try and come up with new products to fulfill the gaps in the mortgage finance industry. So I'll come to this topic. I think regulator as well as all the players have taken a lot of steps around low-income housing, as well as bringing in the unorganized sector in the organized fold from real estate perspective. I would encourage them to look and offer incentives to the organized player as well, because that's very, very critical to bring the level playing field as well as to drive the agenda. Also, I think there is merit in revisiting the criteria for even high-income mortgage financing, because that's also negligible. I think earlier one of the presenter mentioned our total disbursement in home finance is around 100 billion rupees, which is negligible in a country of our size, where banks are celebrating 1 trillion rupees in a deposit. the entire industry has 100 billion, disbursement in home loan. I think that's a very, very low number, even when I look at from the investment class perspective. Home real estate or property continues to be a very critical and main investment class in our country. So there's a lot which we can do in terms of bringing in value-added services in the ecosystem. So again, if I focus on the home loan, I think we are taking a baby steps, but we have a long way to go in terms of starting from the way we define the limits for home finance. I think there's a lot more regulations around it in terms of coming up with the low limits, down payments, and which makes it quite cumbersome for the participants. So when you look at the developed markets, mortgage applicant can purchase property for down payment as low as 5%. And there's a maximum down payment of around 35% on which you can borrow as much as you can. As long as you are paying 35% of the property, there are no limits and caveats around it. I think we need to work around that and make it more flexible in days to come, where we allow different incentives to first home buyers, new home buyers, and mortgage players, so that they actively start looking at it as an attractive investment class that will allow us not only to boom the home financing, but also allow us to kickstart the economic cycle in the country. So I think there's a lot more merit in terms of reviewing the limits as well as down payment. Then I look at the processes involved in home finance. Again, it's quite daunting to begin with. The minute you want to apply, you receive a list of number of documentation which you need to provide, which makes it very difficult for individuals to continue on that. I think we can automate it and make it quite robust as we move along in this journey. And thirdly, in terms of rates, I think around the world there are a number of rates options available through which we can work around the arrangements. It could be a fixed a profit arrangement, a variable profit arrangement. We need to incentivize applicants to make early payment without any penalties. So I think in terms of structure, we have all the ingredients in place, but we need to kickstart that. I think one of the bigger area which Arshad Saab mentioned, that they had a landmark project this morning, which is around off-plan financing. I think that is one space where we had limited success in the past, but I understand now regulator has provided a lot more guidance and clarity on that, and also flexibility in this space. This is one area to me where I think developers like Emaar and with the help of banks in the country, we can reshape the home financing industry. Because that is one area where a lot of participants are looking for financial support from the bank. And if we can facilitate and make it easier, I'm confident that it's just a matter of time. This market has a potential to surpass our existing home finance market of 100 billion. And I have all the reasons to believe that if we make it easier for the participants for new property in terms of off-plan financing, I'm confident in 3 to 4 years time we can surpass 100 billion mark, which we have achieved in the traditional home financing for existing properties. Also, I would like to highlight in terms of promoting the mortgage market, there are certain limits in terms of income tax deductibility on the interest expense. I think that's where we also need to take FBR and the government bodies along and promote this and make it more attractive for the participants. I think 2 million rupees interest expense limit is not justified by any means. I think there's merit in aligning our practices on that space. Also, I would like to encourage, while we don't have anyone from FBR on this panel, there is a lot which FBR can do to promote home financing by offering incentives for first home buyers in terms of tax, in terms of duties and taxes, for new home buyers, also the customers for mortgage financing. I think there is merit in doing it, because the minute you follow a documented route, you bring in transparency in the value of the land and the property, which will go a long way in documenting the economy. So all the steps which are promoting the new home construction, new home financing, first home buyers, I think there is a lot which we can do, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are already practices available around the world. I think we just need to, quickly adapt these practices and bring in, in our ways of working. Lastly, I think I would also encourage, while we have a lot of discussion around bringing unorganized players in the organized sector, there is merit in focusing on the organized players because they bring transparency and documentation and a lot more government revenue as well as foreign inflows. So there is a merit in, giving incentive to them. So I would encourage a regulator from central bank point of view as well as FBR to look into that aspect as well. So I'll stop here and I'll hand over to Jazeb, and I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Sohail Saab, for sharing the rich experience of Emaar as a developer and your recommendations. I am sure this forum will be very useful in sharing the key problems which the industry is facing and the key bottlenecks, which if hopefully removed will really, catapult mortgage financing to the next level. And you very aptly said that 100 billion of outstanding financing is nothing when you compare balance sheet of many banks where the deposit is clearly in trillions of rupees. Okay. Moving on to our next presenter, Mr. Zulfikar Alam, who is the Group Head of Business and Products for Pakistan Mortgage Refinance Company. PMRC has been playing a very active role in promoting housing finance, and I would like Zulfikar Saab to share various initiatives which PMRC has done. For the participants, I would request them to keep on throwing questions at us through the chat box. I'm really thankful to all the presenters who have been answering the questions as and when they are coming. Zulfikar Saab, over to you, please.
Thank you, Jazeb. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Zulfikar. I'm the Group Head Business and Product for Pakistan Mortgage Refinance Company. Just need to share a small presentation. First, what we have done up to now. In terms of the number, our portfolio is 16.4 billion, which has shown a growth of 112%. Our outstanding advances is standing at 15 billion rupees. We have booked around 9 new partner financial institutions, which include banks, DFI, microfinance institutions, and MDFCs in our portfolio. Our customer base has been expanded. We have done the highest disbursement made by any of the DFI in a single year. The volumetric growth we had, and we are the fastest growing DFI right now in the Pakistan arena. In order to promote the low cost housing, what PMRC has done is that PMRC, along with World Bank Group and Government of Pakistan, particularly Ministry of Finance and State Bank of Pakistan, has come up with a Credit Guarantee Trust. Credit Guarantee Trust is a very simple structure whereby PMRC has created a trust which absorbs 40% of the portfolio losses on first loss basis. Meaning that in a very simple word, if a bank has a portfolio of 100 million rupees, they can avail up to 40 million rupees of credit losses from this trust. And PMRC is acting as a trustee. So what are the key parameters? Loan to LTV ratio 90 to 10%. Loan tenure should be 25 years. And the coverage ratio is 40% of the outstanding amount on portfolio basis. Let me explain you what is the difference between portfolio basis and individual basis. When you talk about portfolio basis, meaning that whatever the first 40% of the losses, credit losses arises, it will be borne by the trust. Whereas if you talk about all other parameters, it will remain in line with. How this guarantee works? The guarantee provides a coverage period of up to 10 years, meaning that once you disburse the loan, after disbursement, you create a portfolio, come to PMRC. PMRC will provide you a guarantee of 40% up to 10 years of the loan period, the first 10 years. And what we are going to charge? We are going to charge only 2% one-time fee upfront. Secondly, what are the parameters? If you talk about the parameter, we have aligned all our parameters with the State Bank latest circular, and which is markup subsidy circular, or any bank who is booking a loan as per the government markup subsidy loan criteria, they will be eligible to get the guarantee from the trust. How our Islamic structure is being designed? Islamic structure is designed on the conditional tabarruk basis, with the trustees providing coverage to the participating bank once they classified the loan as loss. The PMRC will be given, the trust will be taking a 2% administrative fees against the loan outstanding of the house portfolio. It will be an administrative fees which will cover the expenses of the fund, and it's a one-time fees for next 10 years. All the funds which have been in cap should be of the trust will be kept in Sharia compliant bank account or Sharia compliant in investment avenue, so that it will come, so that the losses should be covered through the Sharia income arises from the Sharia compliant avenues. If you talk about what are the eligibility criteria, it is same as the State Bank Prudential Regulation. It is in line with the government, it is in line with the State Bank circular on the credit subsidy circular, which has been recently issued. So if the bank is complying with those criteria, meaning that up to 10 million, tier 1, tier 2, tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, they are eligible to get the guarantees from the PMRC by paying up the fee on a quarterly, on one-time basis. So this is our credit guarantee structure. What the credit guarantee structure, agar hum baat kare, when we talk about what is the benefit of the credit guarantee structure, credit guarantee structure provides the banks the ability to book the loans while based on unfunded. Because if you look at all the Islamic bank, the Islamic bank have the liquidity facility available, have the liquidity pool available with them. However, they are reluctant to go into low cost housing, especially on tier 0, because they feel there is a perceived that there is a higher credit risk in these segments. So in order to reduce that or mitigate that risk, what PMRC is doing through Credit Guarantee Trust set up by the government of Pakistan, PMRC is providing 40% on the portfolio basis. The portfolio basis means the first 40% of the losses are borne by the PMRC. The next 60% losses are borne by the banks. And if you talk about in Pakistan, the worst period in 2009, even at that point of time, only 32 to 33% losses were arises by a DFI. So this is a very great facility available to all the banks to promote the low-cost housing, especially in line with the State Bank circular, in line with the government initiative. If anybody have any question on the Credit Guarantee Trust, they can put in the chat box, or they can, so that I can answer those questions. Coming back to how the second part of PMRC, first role is of the PMRC is to promote the housing finance, but the second, simultaneously on the second part is to develop the capital market. Why the capital market? Because PMRC is going to provide long-term funding, medium to long-term funding to the banks, enabling them to offer fixed rate products on long-term basis to their end customer. In order to that, PMRC done first a privately placed term finance certificate, which is done with Pak Kuwait Investment Company. It's a fixed rate 2 years paper with a semi-annual coupon, where the partner financial institution, we give them a mortgage pool of asset as a security, and against that security, they are giving us, they have given us the funds. So this is the structure for the privately. Coming on to the Sukuk structure, our Sukuk structure is based on Shirkatul Aqd basis. It's also a privately based transaction. 6 institutions have participated in. First one was the Pak Kuwait, then Bengal HDL, Bank Islami, Bank of Punjab, and Askari Commercial Bank have given us the amounts required, and the Karandas are also our participant for this. How we are structured it? The structure is very simple. The PMRC and the partner financial institution have given we have created a pool of asset. Underlying asset is housing finance portfolio. The investment of PMRC in those housing portfolio is being given, the partial ownership of those housing finance has been given to the investor, and they become the partial owner of in those pool, which has been created with the partner financial institution. Over that, there is a 25% margin, security margin over collateralization has been given. This issue has been completed. It's one of the unique structure in Pakistan, and it has been designed again by Ahmed Ali Siddiqui Saab of Mizan Bank in collaboration and under his guidance. With his guidance, we have structured this transaction. The Sharia advisor of this was Mufti Ahsan Waqar, and all the big banks have participated in Sukuk. So this is the whole presentation of mine. And if anybody has any question, they can ask me directly, or they can put their comments on the chat box.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Zulfikar Saab, for telling the audience and the panelists about the steps taken by PMRC. We really appreciate your detailed presentation on the structure and the features of the various PMRC initiatives, particularly the Sukuks and the RSFs. So now we are now moving towards the last leg of this webinar. We have received a lot of questions to which they have been answered. I see Mr. Zegam Mahmood Rizvi Saab in the panel, in the list. Zegam Saab is the pioneer of Islamic mortgages. So I now open the floor to all the speakers if they want to share any point which has been left, and then perhaps we can move on and close this session. Zegam Saab, can you hear me? Zegam Saab को unmute कर दें please.
I hear you now. Do you hear me now?
Ji, we can hear you. Assalamu alaikum, sir. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
We are lucky to have you here, sir. You can take few minutes and share your words as a conclusion.
देखिए, आज की इस webinar में sitting here as a student of Islamic finance, I'm enjoying. Let me say it this way, that my students of the past are now, mashallah, groomed to the level of excellence that they are now, the teachers. All the presentations were commendable. And I think this is going to be really a dynamic change. What I personally feel is that, you see, banks have to really learn, accept the Islamic bank. I feel that other banks for the last 70 years have not really been gearing and preparing themselves for housing finance. And when we talk of the low income housing finance in 2016, I guess, but in some international agency, there was a study carried out. I was the team lead, and we went to about 25, 30 cities with a questionnaire. It was a lengthy exercise for affordability. But one thing we observed as a conclusion of that survey, that when we go to the low income segment, they don't understand fully what is Islamic finance, what is this, what that. But almost everyone said, if it is halal, we will take it. Meaning the low income segment, which we are now talking under the Prime Minister's affordable housing program, this segment is more concerned about is Sharia compliant in our language and halal in their language. So I think this is where the conventional banks have to come forward. Islamic banks, they are very well prepared, yes, but they are not that much prepared to really deal with that segment of the population which I'm talking, and which is the main target of the Prime Minister Housing Program. Why I'm saying that? You see that that income segment is not having a documented income. So meaning, by and large, we have to really evolve and develop the informal income assessment models. Although there was a lot of exercise carried out under the, I was served there as chairman of the Prime Minister's Housing Task Force, but there was complete many sessions, including the involvement of the IFC and the State Bank, where we try to develop guidelines for informal income assessment. My request to the State Bank would be that those guidelines may be formalized in some form of document and may be proposed to the banking sector. At that level, even IFC was involved, and they were willing to carry out four sessions in all the 4 major provinces, how to really assess the informal income, because that's the clientele which is primarily main candidate for the Sharia compliant finance. And of course, linked to that is the clubbing of the family income. इसकी भी गाइडलाइंस वाला जो है वो बैंकों में किसी हद तक तो है, but not really to that extent that even with all the respect, while Islamic banks have exceeded the target of 10%, Mizan, Dubai Islamic Bank, Bank Islami, that they have done a commendable job, far more than the conventional banks have done, but not to this income segment.
Zagam Saab, sorry to interrupt you. Actually, we have to move and close this session. I would really like to thank you for your words of
comments थे कि ये जो है एक तो ये है कि इस इनकम सेगमेंट के लिए अपने आप को प्रिपेयर करें, और जब इनकम सेगमेंट में जाते हैं तो इनफॉर्मल इनकम असेसमेंट, क्लबिंग ऑफ इनकम, और उस क्लाइंटेल को डील उस तक आउटरीच. थर्ड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज आउटरीच टू देम. यस,
thank you very much, Zagam Saab. I would request Ahmad Ali Siddiqui Saab, Director IBSEEF, SEVP Group Head Mizan Bank, to close this session. And I would like to thank all the panelists, and I would like to thank all the participants who have attended this session. Inshallah ta'ala, we will do more sessions on housing finance through IBSEEF forum. So over to you, Ahmed Bhai, for the closing.
Thank you, and Jazakallah Jahanzeb for conducting this session very well. On behalf of IBS Center for Excellence in Islamic Finance, I like to thank all the participants who have attended this seminar. I also like to thank all the panelists who have attended the session and contributed their knowledge and skills. And I hope that these sessions will improve the housing finance options for the customers in Pakistan. It will help the banks to learn from each other. It will help the regulator and the construction industry to interact. And inshallah, as a result, we can have solutions of Sharia compliant housing, which is close to our belief, close to our heart, that we want, and people want that their house should be riba free, should be acquired in a Sharia compliant manner, which will also bring the blessings, inshallah. So with these words, I thank all of you and all the panelists, all the participants of this webinar. Also, I'd like to thank Zagham Rizvi Saab, who is a very senior Islamic finance supporter and housing finance expert. And this webinar will be available on the Facebook. So anyone of you who have missed some part of it can also, you can see it again. You can refer to your colleagues. So Jazakallah, and thank you everyone for participating. May Allah accept our efforts, and inshallah will bring similar webinars in the future as well. Jazakallah, and thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.